Okay.
All right. Today we are going to discuss
Spider-Man No Way Home.
All right, Spider-Man Far From Home. So,
Is that what it's called?
Or No Way Home. Yeah.
I was like,
I don't know what I was thinking of.
Just
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
so what are your first impressions of Spider-Man No Way Home? No, before we start,
I was trying to move away from the mic.
let me go ahead and say
Spoilers.
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Not even a spoiler alert. Spoiler warning.
Before anybody.
Spoiler alarm.
Oh yeah. If you're watching this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, there's going to be spoilers all through the cast. We are not getting ready to pull no punches. If you have not seen the movie, it's not going to be on us.
We'll give you 10 seconds. We'll give you a 10-second countdown.
It's all on you.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Why are you still watching? 2, 1. All right, let's go.
Spider-Man dies. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, man.
Okay, so my first impression of the movie, and we kind of disagreed on this when we had that initial conversation after I watched it. This is probably second greatest Marvel movie to come out to date.
Cap.
Next to, and let me finish what I'm saying. Next to Endgame. Now, I'm not the only one who believes that. There's many comic geeks that I followed that had the same reaction, like this movie was great. And they kind of felt like me. Like, I won't say it's worse than Endgame, and I won't say it's better than Endgame. I think these are two movies that are on par with each other. But the fact that this was a movie for an individual Marvel character, and it was on par with a movie that incorporated almost the whole Marvel universe, in some ways does make it a little better. So that's what I was gonna say. Yeah. That kind of gives that credence, but I think both movies are on par.
I think it's because, think about it, right? The three Spider-Men that we have span across 3 different generations.
This is true.
Right? So I think that so many people identified with all the characters that showed up in this movie that it was just like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man in like the late 90s, right? That's when that started, right? The Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, like the mid 2000s, 2010s, you know?
Yeah, was that?
It was 2012.
Was that original Spider-Man in the late 90s? No, it was in the 2000s.
Wasn't the first one like 99?
No, it was after that. I'm almost positive it was after that. But I could be mistaken because I know it was before Iron Man, before that first Iron Man.
Oh, it was way before that.
But I don't think it was in like 99. I thought it was way after that.
2002.
Okay, yeah, that's
yeah, but it's still, regardless, right? Because I was in 2002. I think the last movie was like 2010, 2012. And then
you talking about the Andrew Garfield one, or are you talking about
I think the Andrew Garfield one started in 2012.
Did it?
Yeah, I think it's when the first one came out.
Yeah, those timelines always kind of mess me up a little bit.
Okay, think about this. The first Ant-Man movie came out in 2015.
Wow. Man, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I feel old. Yeah, so the first Amazing Spider-Man was 2012. Yeah.
Okay, so
it spans across pretty much 3 generations.
Yeah, and I want to say that Spider-Man No Way Home was so good that when I left the theater, even at the end, when MJ and Ned's memory was wiped, I felt completely satisfied. And that last end credit scene, which was pretty much an ad for...
It was a trailer.
It was a trailer for Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. By the way, oh, yeah, we'll have to get into that too. Oh, yeah. We'll get into that. But
it's going to get crazy.
Yeah, it's going to get really crazy. So, now that you mentioned you watch What If, I'm going to tell you what one of my theories are, and then you can kind of go over your brief synopsis of what you thought about the movie. I think that evil Doctor Strange has been behind a lot of the things going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe behind the scenes this whole time. And I think that's why the original Sorcerer Supreme was so skeptical about messing with the timeline, because I think that her and Thanos, now this didn't originate with me. There was another guy, I can't remember what comic book channel, where he talked about the fact that Thanos was more than likely a veteran of the multiversal war, and that's the real reason why he wanted to wipe the universe of half of its living population. Now, I think that it's possible that both the Sorcerer Supreme and Thanos were both beings that fought in the multiversal war, which would explain why one, the Sorcerer Supreme knew so much about the altering timelines and the damage it would cause.
Yeah, because when Hulk brought that up, when he went back to the past, she wasn't surprised. She was like, so he said that.
Yeah.
She just gave away the stone. I was like, okay.
And then so here's the next thing. Thanos was not surprised when he ran into the nebula that wasn't his, and he also wasn't surprised to see his head get cut off, and he also wasn't surprised in the whole idea of the microverse. Almost like
he had seen this stuff before.
Yeah, like maybe he didn't know how to get to this stuff, but he knew of this stuff.
He just so casually time traveled with his entire fleet, like nothing had happened. Like there was no like, oh, what the heck? There was just like,
right,
okay, let's go.
not knowing that what he was doing was actually probably
creating a variant
and actually moving faster toward a multiversal war. Him going to the future actually.
I don't necessarily know how wiping this whole universe would prevent a multiversal war, but
because so the argument is, if you could get rid of half the beings in existence, then one of those. So the way the argument went is the beings that he got rid of wasn't necessarily all, what is the word I'm looking for? All inconspicuous, right? Like there was actually a method to that madness, right? Like there were certain beings that led to the exacerbation of the multiversal war that had to go. And when you look at some of the beings that disappeared, some of them were actually like integral parts.
Yeah. I mean, so technically, right? I don't know if you know this or not, but Spider-Man, like the Spider-Men are actually Nexus beings.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I knew Scarlet Witch.
So you remember when Tobey Maguire in the movie was like, I just had a feeling that he needed help, right?
Yes.
That was probably something called the Web of Life.
Right.
So,
they're cognizant of their different beings across multiverses.
But
yes.
Spider-Men are actually chosen by the Web of Life.
Okay.
So that's how like all the Spider-Men in every universe are connected through that, and it's like it's something else that they're connected by too. I don't remember, but the Web of Life is just like the main thing that chooses each Spider-Man. So you remember in Spider-Verse when Miles saw the universes and he saw like everything in a web?
Yeah,
he was seeing the Web of Life.
Okay.
So
all right.
Spider-Man are actually Nexus beings.
Very interesting.
So that's probably why he snapped him out of existence when that happened. Because you know.
So now what this also kind of brings to mind is Loki and Spider-Man are two of the most integral parts of this whole multiverse war. Yeah, they're two of the integral parts. Which I hope that Loki goes on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know a lot of the actors that have played in the Avengers movies don't want to be typecasted, so a lot of them are gonna, back out of their roles.
Yeah, I think this is the last Thor movie,
right?
And Jane Foster's gonna take over.
So I think this is how they're gonna address that. A lot of the characters are gonna come back as their multiversal variants, and that's how they're gonna cast other actors, right?
And there'll be like a few people who know the difference,
right? Like Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch will
come back, but
Nick
she
Fury
will
probably know because he's off world right now,
right? Right. So that's how I think they're gonna. That's just my theory. I could be wrong, but that's my theory.
So I think that when you were talking about how the evil Doctor Strange behind all this has some ground, because you remember in What If when they were fighting Ultron,
and that's exactly
and he like kind of sucked some of his energy, and Ultron like made a face. He's like, what?
Yep.
And I was like,
Yep. And that's
maybe he got all that together to be able to drain some of that like reality bending energy.
Right. Which is why I told you before you had finished What If, I was like, oh, when you finish What If, it's going to make... For those of you who have already seen No Way Home, and for those of you who have not finished watching Marvel's What If on Disney Plus, you are missing an integral portion of everything going on in the multiverse. The end of Loki, season 1, And the end of What If, those are two things you absolutely have to see, because you remember when Ultron was breaking through all of the different multiverses, it looked exactly like that spell that Doctor Strange cast in the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. It looked exactly like that. So when I saw it, I was extremely hyped right out the gate. And when I heard the Watcher's voice, I was like,
yeah. So I watched the trailer
goodness.
again, and I heard his voice at the beginning, and I was like,
Oh,
and then you
goodness.
see the evil Doctor Strange in the trailer, and I was like,
very interesting,
because he's like, things have gotten interesting, and then like the original
yeah.
Steven is like, the heck,
like what's going on? Who's this dude?
So,
yeah.
Oh man, it was such a good movie, and I think that like
the
dialogue between all the Spider-Men when they were all in the same scenes was probably some of the best stuff I've ever seen. Like the scene where they were talking about the webs, that's such a funny scene.
It was
like, oh my goodness, you ever have trouble shooting your webs? And he refers to what happened to Spider-Man 2.
Right.
Mary Jane got engaged. I was like, oh my goodness,
he kind of had a crisis in his mind.
What I'm thinking, right? I think you mentioned this yesterday or the day before. You were talking about how you think they did all this so Sony could continue with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Yes. I hope they do.
Yeah.
I hope they do.
I think they want to. I think
the fans want to too, because somebody tweeted about it after the movie came out. It had like over 100,000 retweets, 100,000 likes.
Yeah, because now they have the opportunity to continue other Spider-Man movies
without messing with the original Marvel universe. And I think that's what Sony, because Sony knows like Spider-Man. Everybody loves Spider-Man.
Yeah, so I think
that's a cash cow.
I think once everything about the multiverse came out, I think it allowed for a little more nimbleness with creating certain movies and not necessarily sticking with one timeline, because you can easily explain, like, for people who are wondering, like, where have the X-Men been? Different timeline. Easy. Yeah. Easy explanation. Done. Solved. And
a timeline where Apocalypse didn't exist is the one that they're
it could be a timeline where there was no Avengers, and then there's a timeline where there's X-Men and Avengers, right? So that's easily explained. Comic books, what people have to realize, and when I see a lot of people complain online about certain things, I'm like, you have to realize and remember, comic books are fiction.
Yeah, there's literally a universe where everybody is Uncle Ben.
Right, you can change these things. There's different multiverses and there's different variants of characters. So when people go crazy about some of this stuff, I'm like,
it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's not. It's like, not.
As somebody who reads comic books, when people complain about certain things in the movies, like, so there's people who know stuff about comic books, right? And there's people who read comic books,
right?
And people who read comic books have different gripes than people who just know stuff about comic books. People will be like, "Oh, why isn't this character in here?" Somebody who reads comic books would be like, "Well, you know, it actually wouldn't make sense plot wise because I have to take all this time to explain this, this, and this, and it just wouldn't make any sense." You know,
people. I think some people just want a reason to complain about comic books. Yeah. I've realized.
Look, if I see one complaint about the new Spider-Man movie, I'm gonna just assume you hate yourself. That movie was perfect.
You know, there's gonna be somebody who didn't like it. There's always there's people who didn't like Endgame.
Oh my god, I remember that.
There's people that
Sorry, you finished your saying.
No, that's all I was gonna say.
So you know what all these like comic book movies have shown me?
What is that?
The film industry does not understand what people want to watch.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you how I'm convinced of that. Now, I've yet to watch, and you know me. Marvel movie comes out, I'm going to see it. If I can see it day one, I will. The only reason I did not see Spider-Man No Way Home day one is I was in Utah and I was waiting to come home to see it. Eternals, I have no desire to go to the theater to see that. I'll see it when it comes on Disney Plus.
It's a waste of time. I wasted money and time.
And I might even skip it on Disney Plus. This is what I hope. I hope Eternals is one of those movies where the production studio realizes, okay, we messed up. Let's pretend like that never happened. Like reference it here and there, but
it wasn't a bad movie per se, but it definitely wasn't a good one. Like for Marvel, that's
what I was gonna say.
That's a stinker Marvel, of a movie. Like if it was just its own movie, right? I'd be like, oh, this is a dope movie, but like, no.
Yeah, for a Marvel movie, it's gotta knock you. A Marvel movie has to knock it out the park. Right out the gate, day one.
And I think that Marvel understands it, because you remember pre-Endgame, pre-Infinity War, like all the Marvel movies started feeling like they were the same movie.
I don't really. I don't know.
I do, because I was like, every character, like every like hero was making jokes and being witty. I'm like, some of these characters aren't
Are
really
not
like
meant for that, right?
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I kind of see what you guys are doing. You guys had a formula that works, but like, can you switch it up a little bit?
Right.
Like Shang-Chi, yo, that was a breath of fresh air. That was such a good movie. I was like,
so this is what's funny. I'm glad. So hyped. I'm glad you brought that up. Why did I get so many? Okay, so I understand comic book fans' complaints about certain movies because you have a lot of creators, a lot of production studios that are trying to placate a small group of people that are really not fans, right? And you really do have that going on. The problem I had with people's complaints about Shang-Chi, like I remember watching this video. Shang-Chi. Okay, it's whatever. But there was a YouTuber who's a geek comic book fan who complained that they felt like they were trying to force the female characters on you, and I was like,
characters?
The sister.
You're talking about the sister? She was a dope character.
But and that's exactly what I thought. I thought the character fit. It didn't feel forced.
What? Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah. But now, don't get me wrong. I understand people are on guard because I'm sure you've heard the comment MCU, where Marvel.
I've not heard this comment.
Yeah, it's a hashtag going around amongst Marvel fans how they're trying to change all of the characters and bolster the female.
I saw
roles.
people complaining about Jane Foster too, which didn't make any sense.
Here's what I will say. There is no doubt. There's a lot of cultural shifts. I don't want to get into that. I just want to stick on geekdom. But there is a lot of cultural shifts, and there definitely is a move towards bolstering female characters that's not really organic. It's forced.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, prime example.
But the thing about Captain Marvel is she's also kind of a terrible person in the comic books too, so
yeah,
it's a little bit comic book accurate.
Right. So it's like Fantastic Four. The original Fantastic Four movie was goofy.
Richards.
But Fantastic Four comic book is goofy. If you've ever read Fantastic Four, it's a goofy comic book. That's kind of the allure of Fantastic Four.
This huge dude just starts stretching out of nowhere.
Right. But like you said about the Jane Foster Thor story is amazing.
Look, if they do it correctly,
I don't care what anyone says. That story is amazing.
I remember reading that, and then the War Thor stuff started coming out, and I was holy crap.
I haven't read War Thor. I have all of the Jane Foster
You have
books.
to read War Thor. Yeah. It is so good. And like, I think that because especially like a lot of the older comic book fans, right? I understand they have a lot of gripes, people changing characters, whatever, this and that. But I think a lot of them get blinded by that visceral reaction they have at first. They don't know that there can be compelling female characters.
Right.
Without it being forced.
Now, I do understand some people's gripe, because some people's gripe is just create another female character. It doesn't have to be a rendition of a character that we already have.
Which is fair.
Which, yeah, I understand that. That's what I'm saying. I definitely understand that. I understand that complaint, but that complaint doesn't change the fact that Jane Foster Thor story is good. It is very good. And the first time I read it, I was like, yo, this is actually dope. It's kind of like it to me, it was the perfect story to come before War of the Realms. Yeah. If you've not read War of the Realms, you are missing out. War of the Realms and Dark Knight's Metal is probably two of the best comic book stories, I would say, in the past 10, 15 years, my opinion. Of course, all my opinion. You might differ.
Dark Side War was pretty good.
I haven't read Dark Side War.
It was pretty good.
I haven't read Dark Side War. But so anyway, Spider-Man Far From Home. I think that you actually felt so connected to Spider-Man and MJ's relationship in this one, that they really tugged at you emotionally in a good way. Like they could, not that they weren't connected in the other movies, but this one, it really got, especially at the end where she didn't remember who he was and he went to get coffee at that coffee shop and she still had on a necklace that he bought her when they were in, Italy they were in. That whole thing, in my opinion, was very well done. It was a masterpiece of a movie. The acting was good. I think personally, Ned is going to wind up being a villain. What you think about that?
So somebody said in the comic books he ends up being a Hobgoblin.
Really?
Yes. So I think that's why he's been losing all this weight to try to fit into that role. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's gonna have something to do with like, because I think they're gonna have Warworld. Not gonna lie.
I think everything they're doing, for those of you who don't follow the comic books, the Secret War is a really big event. It was, I would say, would you say it was as big as Infinity War? I would.
What are you talking about?
Secret War.
Oh, Secret War was that? Wasn't it like 2006?
I think I have to look it up. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was done twice. I think Secret War was done twice.
Civil War was also done twice too. Like the original Civil War was done again later on, and they had Civil War 2 whenever the movie came out.
Secret War was good.
That's when the Black Spider-Man suit came out.
And I think everything they're doing now is leading to Secret War, and I think that's why they're holding off on introducing Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom, because I think those two, both the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom, are going to be integral to moving toward the Secret War. Just my opinion.
I don't know. I have a theory. I have a game theory.
What's your theory?
Think that one of the movie Spider-Man are going to appear in the next Spider-Verse movie.
I think that's very possible.
I think if they do, they might end up getting a live action actor for Miles Morales.
Oh, I think that's happening.
I think it'll be cool. I think it'll be really cool.
Yeah,
you want to know something that's crazy about that?
What's that?
You know who inspired Black Spider-Man?
Who?
Donald Glover.
Really?
Yes. So he made a joke about it like a while back, like campaigning for it on Twitter, like as a meme. And the writer who made Miles Morales said that tweet inspired him to make Miles Morales.
Okay, that would explain why Donald Glover played Miles Morales' uncle.
Exactly. So you know the dude who voice acts Miles' uncle in the Spider-Verse?
No.
So I mean, nobody really does, but apparently he's Donald Glover's cousin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Donald,
I did not know that.
It's so weird how Donald Glover is so connected to the character of Miles Morales. Like if you didn't know, you're just like.
So kind of something that you just. So this is another area. Now I'm not a fan of retrofitting characters, but when it's done organically and correctly, and I think so. Again, this is one of those areas where I understand why people had their complaints about Miles Morales.
Miles Morales came out. It was a lot.
People have complaints about it's sort of like making a black Batman. I understand why people have a problem with it. I get it, right? Especially when it's not done. Batwing. Especially when it's not done organically. But Miles Morales' story was done so well.
It was good.
It was very good. I think I bought the first and second issue on Comixology because I was overseas. And when I read it, I was like, "Oh, this is good."
Yeah, it would have been different if it was a garbage story. Like, not the new Defenders. It was like. Oh, man, I can't remember. You're probably gonna remember if I start describing it. It was like this group of teenage heroes who ended up splitting off from the Avengers after Civil War. Started doing their own thing.
Yeah, I do.
They redid that. They redid those characters. I forget. It's the same name. Apparently, the characters were bad. Like it was.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
It was.
It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work when they try to do that.
Because I understand making characters that everyone can relate to. Right. That's cool. There are certain characters people can already relate to.
This is true.
And I don't, I like, literally, right? I don't care if Spider-Man's black. I don't care if Spider-Man's white. Stan Lee said it himself. Anyone could put on the mask. Spider-Man just represents the normal person who has, like, normal things they deal with in life. Just still choose to be better people.
Just make the character good.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. Just make the character good.
Because, especially when it comes to, like, Captain Marvel, I understand people don't like her character, but it's comic book accurate. It is like... That is literally a comic book accurate character.
I've never read Captain Marvel, but again, I compare that to Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four is a
you know what Captain Marvel does in Civil War 2?
No.
So Civil War 2 pretty much revolves around this inhuman called Ulysses who can see like into the future, and he sees people committing crimes in the future and stuff like that. Okay. And one of the integral parts of that story is he sees Miles Morales killing Captain America, and so Tony Stark and Captain Marvel butt heads. This is their story pretty much, right?
Okay. That seems like
Tony Stark doesn't agree because Captain Marvel tries to arrest Miles and Tony Stark doesn't agree, and they just starts this whole conflict. And Captain Marvel is terrible in this comic book. Like she is one of the most. She became one of the most hated.
So she's like the bad good guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
And I think that because when I saw her movie, it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. but I understood it was like comic book accurate, and it was a decent movie. Like it wasn't a bad movie. It was just like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think Captain Marvel was bad.
Yeah, because I think everybody who calls it bad is just like disingenuous.
I don't think I'll say that. I'll say I think Brie Larson as a person probably affected the movie character. Unfortunately, like I don't know her personally, so I'm not gonna attack her. But a lot of things I've seen her say and just how she's carried herself probably wasn't best for PR as far as selling the movie.
So who's the person who said that Captain Marvel was stronger than Thor?
It was her. She said.
I thought that was somebody who wrote the stuff.
No, she said it. She said it in an interview. It was her and I can't remember his name now.
I mean, maybe that way he's like.
What's his name that plays Thor? I can't remember his name.
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. Her Chris Hemsworth, and not Anthony Mackie. Was it Anthony Mackie?
Oh, Anthony Mackie, funny. I love. No,
it wasn't Anthony Mackie. It was her. No, it was. I think it was her. Chris Hemsworth, Anthony Mackie. Who was it? No, Don Cheadle. It was Don Cheadle. That's who it was. And she said something about Captain Marvel being the strongest character, and Chris Hemsworth was like, I don't know about that. And I mean, I don't know how you feel about that. There's been debate about this online, but I think Thor is stronger than Captain Marvel.
Honestly,
personally,
in the new Thor movie, if they introduce the Thor Force, no. But if they keep Thor like kind of how he is, then they might be equal.
I don't agree. I think.
Well, do you know about the Thor Force?
Yeah, I know a little bit about it.
It's like 20 times as strong as the old Force, and it's like if. Because Thor's all depressed and stuff, and now he's not as strong as he used to be. You know what I mean?
Right. So, although I think that was changed in the end of Endgame, it seemed like he was back on top of his game.
Yeah, he might be. I mean,
after all
it's
that.
it's a
no more
lore,
fat Thor.
It's a lore accurate Thor, because Thor in Norse mythology is actually pretty
fat.
Yeah, pretty heavy set.
Fat
That's just
Thor.
his character. But I think that if they don't introduce the Thor Force in the next movie, then they might be equal, but definitely not stronger.
Okay.
Pretty strong character, though. I'm not gonna lie. Pretty strong character. I think the strongest Marvel character is Scarlet Witch. By far.
You talking about strongest overall, but
in the MCU? In the MCU.
Oh,
MCU is Scarlet Witch.
When you look at Endgame, she could have ended Thanos.
Yes.
Ended Thanos.
Yes. She could have ended it in Infinity War.
Yeah, it would have been a wrap.
Yeah, no, I think that
she definitely. I mean,
look, Captain Marvel's a strong character in and out of comics, but in the MCU as it stands, nobody's stepping to Wanda.
Nah, I agree.
Like, why do you think none of the Sorcerer? Why do you think the Sorcerer Supreme didn't say anything about was it Westview?
Yeah,
because he wasn't. What could he do?
Right.
She could literally destroy Infinity Stones.
Yeah. Although I think Vision. I don't know. I think Vision's kind of that dude. Other than
Vishon,
other than
did you hear about the Vishon?
Vishon. Other than an Infinity Stone being destroyed, but yeah. Other than that, he's that dude. Now imagine. I did like that. What if with Ultron?
Yeah.
Getting.
So I was thinking about that whole time. I was like, this could have ended Infinity War 4 started. You serious? Yeah. He was like, interesting.
Yeah, I was like, this is crazy. So. Yeah. So I mean. I don't know where Marvel goes from here because
only up. I'm saying they only going up.
Well, I don't know because Eternals was a miss 100%. Now, here's my question. You have to remember Spider-Man No Way Home was not a Disney Marvel flick. It was a collaboration, but it was Sony. So Sony gets it. Look, let's make a comic book movie. Let's not try to do all of this. Look, I don't care about your politics. I don't want to get into that on this podcast, but just make a comic book movie. Remove all that other stuff. Just make a comic book movie. I'm not sure Marvel understands that yet.
I think they do. Shang-Chi was good.
Shang-Chi was good.
Shang-Chi was really good. The Hawkeye show, pretty good.
Now, remember, they corrected themselves with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. They almost went off a cliff with that one, if you remember.
Yeah.
They were going in the direction of wokeness, and then they course corrected. And this is what I think. I don't think a lot of those episodes were finished, and I think once they got that backlash, they were like, let's clean this up a little bit and make this actually good for the fans. Hawkeye was good.
Hawkeye was good.
Hawkeye was really good. I know a lot of people complained about that, which I didn't understand their complaints.
I didn't understand it either. Because
I thought it was very well done.
I think that definitely all of Hawkeye's character is about him. Like, you can't deny it, right? He's a black man who's now the symbol of America, right?
Facts.
But I don't think they should only focus on that part of his character. Like, obviously, it'll come up, whatever. Like, the scene with the cops, I don't really have that big of a problem with, right? I was like, okay, whatever.
Not really,
keep
but
moving.
they almost went off the rails.
They kept pushing it,
right?
Like, they kept pushing that, and like, it's not that it's not an important thing, but it's not what I'm watching the show for, right? Like, I'm not stupid. I know certain characters, their race is probably an important part of that character, right? But that's not the only thing you should be focused on. That builds a vapid story and something people don't want to watch. Right. Like, whenever people talk about like not being with it, people think that they're just fully against it. It's not even that.
No.
It's just, you can build a compelling character without only focusing on one part of their character.
Right. And you almost build an animosity into the character when race is the whole issue. Yeah. Because you're going to alienate a certain part of the audience.
Right. And if you say something like that, people are going to think that his race should not even be an important thing in his character, which is... I'm just saying, that's because like when people were making those arguments, people were like, oh, so you're saying his race is not important? It's like, no, it's not that it's not important. It's that it shouldn't be the most important.
It's kind of like when comic book creators focus on a character being gay. I don't care what you are.
Oh my goodness.
But when you make that the focus of the character, like, I'm not reading this comic book to see a straight or gay character. That's not what I'm looking for.
I'm trying to see a good character.
I'm looking for a good storyline. And I think when writers focus on anything other than storyline, you're always going to have a problem. And I don't care what it is. It could be the fact that, hey, this character is handicapped. I don't care, bro. I don't care. Is this a good character? Like, don't focus on something.
Luke Skywalker's handicapped.
Yeah.
So is Anakin.
Don't focus on something that I really didn't concern myself with. I just want to read comic books and I want to see. Now, we're going to have to do an episode where we talk about this Halo TV series coming up, because that's got me
I'm getting... When does it come out again?
It comes out next year on that Paramount Plus.
I might get Paramount Plus.
I'm definitely...
when that comes out.
Hopefully, Lord willing, I'm going to get it, because I definitely want to see that. So, your final take on Spider-Man as far as what it means for the MCU.
Okay, so in the previous Spider-Man and Avengers movies, right? Spider-Man wasn't Spider-Man. Spider-Man was a character that decided to fit into the MCU, right? He was always like having help from somebody else or some outside force instead of figuring it out himself. Because if you read the comic books, you watch any of the old cartoon shows, he had to figure out a lot of this stuff on his own.
Right.
And that was him. That was the pull of the character. He was just a normal dude.
He's a loner.
Yeah. Who just had to figure stuff out on his own. And I think at the end of No Way Home, they figured out how to perfectly introduce that side of his character.
Okay. I agree. 100%.